Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Happy Tuesday, March the 19th. We are glad to see you today. My name is Christy Wick. I'm a nurse practitioner at UTC School of Nursing, and I'd like to welcome you all today to ENCORE Ministries, Building Community with Older Adults. We are thrilled to have you with us for our second session. Today's session will feature Dr. Rick Gensler again, talking about aging and opportunity, as well as a few words from myself. We're going to get started with Dr. Rick Gensler. We did a full bio last week. As you know, he's the director of ENCORE Ministry, directing the work of committee members, providing consultation, training, support, resources, and networking opportunities for church leaders in the Tennessee Western Kentucky Conference of the United Methodist Church. Thank you, Dr. Gensler, for being here, and we look forward to hearing your presentation today.
Good afternoon, Dr. Wick. It's a great pleasure for ENCORE Ministry Foundation to help co-sponsor with Engaging Communities Tennessee our monthly online learning webinar series, and I'm just delighted to be with you today. Before I begin today's webinar, I want to welcome our viewers and to express my appreciation to each of you for taking time to participate in today's webinar. I'm grateful for the many responses I received from last month's webinar, in which we actually just did an overview of older adult ministry. Today's webinar is entitled Embracing Our Aging, and I hope you find this webinar equally helpful to you and to your ministry. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You see if we've got it. Are we all set? Everyone can see that? Oh,
yes,
great.
Sir. Looks good.
Super. I want to call your attention to the email address. I oftentimes use rgensler@encoreministry.org, but for whatever reason, I think my link isn't working, or either they fired me and got rid of me because that email isn't working right now. So my email, if you have any questions following our webinar today, you might want to try richard.gensler@twkumc.org. And that email will reach my address and my account. So we'll begin then for today. I want to set the scene, as I call it, and what we're going to do for this next hour together. During this webinar, we will examine why ageism is a hindrance to successful aging, and how we can challenge ageism, and ways we can embrace our own aging. So that's the overview. These are the areas that we're really going to try and cover for our time together. And as we begin, I just want to lift up two selected passages of scripture, and I know there are many, but I want to lift up these two. Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life, from Proverbs 16, verse 31. And also, the glory of youth is their strength, but the beauty of the aged is their gray hair. Proverbs 20, 29. What does gray hair represent? Well, it represents older adulthood, as well as experience, knowledge, and in many cases, wisdom. Certainly not all, but in many cases, wisdom as well. This is kind of going to be our guiding principle, if you will, as we move forward with our webinar at this time. Aging in America. Globally, there are cultures where older adults are revered, respected, and admired. But in America, our culture declares that old age means decline, and growing older is oftentimes viewed with embarrassment. Being relevant is to remain young and youthful. We're young at heart. We're filled with zest and youthfulness. And in America, our culture declares that our worth is in our productivity, our beauty, strength, and even high earnings. And once you're no longer productive, or you no longer have your beauty or strength, you actually lose your worth within our culture. Ageism is defined by the late Dr. Robert Butler, who was the first director of the National Institute on Aging in Washington, D.C., when he coined the term ageism in 1968. And ageism refers to stereotypes of and discrimination against older people. Simple as that. The reality that older adults are looked upon as something odd, something different, something less. And ageism can lead to myths about older people and the aging process itself. Aging is often projected in our society as being bad, and old is ugly. And sometimes we take that in ourselves as we age and as an older adult. We think of ourselves, oh, these wrinkles and these crow feet and everything that we have upon us, and our graying hair makes us not pretty anymore. As a result, many older people don't want to be viewed as an older adult. Don't call me an older adult. I don't think of myself as an older adult. And those terms become very frequent in use among not only older adults, but as they are projected toward younger people. And we say this about ourselves, even sometimes in front of our grandchildren. Oh, I'm too old. I'm too old. The core of ageism is stereotypical assumption that when people reach age 65, they become dependent, they need the care of others, they grow frail, they're sickly, and end up in residential care. You know, they're going to go into a nursing home, when the reality of about less than 4% of older adults are in any kind of long-term residential care. Older adults may even resist describing themselves as aging because we're aware that being old is devalued, stigmatized identity. And as we grow older, we may not take full advantage of the opportunities presented to us because of self-imposed ageism. I think I'm too old. I can't do this. I'm over 65, or I'm retired. And so oftentimes we have a self-imposed ageism, not only on our thinking, but also on our action. And sometimes we're even fearful of taking any kind of risk, even if it isn't one that would impact us and our well-being and our health. One time I was a board member on the National Council on the Aging out of Washington, D.C. And so I still get their reports and their information. And their latest report said about, unfortunately, ageism has become a central theme even in the 2024 election. And you cannot help but watch the news and hear reports about, oh, Donald Trump is 77 years of age, and Joe Biden is 81 years of age. They're too old. They're too old. They're too old. And so their ability is placed on their chronological age and not their function. So in political ads and news coverage, our implicit bias toward aging is really on full display, and it happens everywhere. Ageism is our enemy, period. It impairs our ability to live our best lives, both as individuals and as a society. In fact, both young and old alike suffer from stereotypes such as being too young to lead or too old to learn. So even young and old are impacted by ageism. You can challenge ageism. Ageism has become ingrained bias in American society that permeates all aspects of our lives. Ageism, like racism, homophobia, Anti-Semitism is another form of bigotry deeply ingrained in societal perceptions. Unfortunately, Christians and other religious faith believers are not immune to the bias of ageism. We may find ageism throughout our congregation and within our faith community, in small and subtle ways or in large, frightening ways. It's crucial for older adults to challenge the stereotypes of bigotry about aging. We have to challenge this, and we have to be the challengers of ageism. Unfortunately, how we age often depends on the way we personally internalize society's images of older adults. And again, they're everywhere. In commercials, you could watch on television commercials with the no wrinkles, the cream that we'll put on our faces. Young women who don't even look like they're in their 20s are there putting on the cream and sharing with all the viewers that this cream will take away your wrinkles, because wrinkles are ugly and you don't want to have wrinkles. But aging is changing as a result of scientific discoveries, advances in medical technology and healthcare, life choices, and a host of other variables. More people are living longer, healthier lives than ever before. You know, 200 years ago, people didn't even retire. They worked until they wore out. A little over 100 years ago, the life expectancy in the United States was roughly 47 years of age. And today, even amidst the COVID and the deaths of people who were 65 years of age, and while our life expectancy may have dropped about a year or two as a result of COVID, we're still at about 78 years. And what a difference between 47 back around 1900 and today, life expectancy closer to 80 years of age. In reality, the experience of aging has changed and is changing. But how we speak and think about aging has not changed. That's the sadness. Although aging is changing and people are living healthier longer than ever before, the views that we have within our society or the views that we hold within ourselves have not necessarily changed. Aging is inevitable. Your attitude about aging is really up to you. It's up to each of us. Aging is a natural process of development that includes both gains as well as losses. Aging is how God made living things, and it is the only way to live. Aging is the only way to live. The number one thing not to do this year, here you go. The number one thing that you should not do this year, each and every one of you who are watching this program, this webinar, don't be negative about your aging. There have been recent studies that have indicated that people who are positive about their own aging have a life expectancy of up to 7.5 years longer than people who are negative. People who put themselves down, who put down being an older adult, who are frustrated by their aging to the degree that they've become so negative about growing older, have a shorter life expectancy than people who cope well with aging and have a positive outlook about their own aging. So keep that in mind. One thing not to do this year, don't be negative about your aging, and don't put yourself down because you're getting older. Celebrate your next birthday and rejoice and be glad in it. We recognize the negative attitudes we have about our own aging. If we really want to change and have a different attitude, we have to recognize that the negative attitudes we may personally hold. Think about yourself. What negative attitudes do you hold about aging? What negative attitudes do you hold about your own aging or the aging of someone else? We can change our attitude about aging if we are aware of the negative attitudes we have about older adults in general. If we reframe and reimagine aging in our own setting, whether it's in our home, in our community, in our church, or our place of worship. We treat all older adults with dignity and respect. We teach others by our example. And we remember that we will all age and be old someday ourselves. Helping everyone to understand that God willing, Lord willing, we will all age and be older. Living longer and healthier, older adults are making meaningful contributions to their community, serving as valuable wisdom givers to their churches, their communities, and to their families. Older adults are sharing life experiences and faith journeys with family and friends. And older adults are providing historical grounding to young people. This is what's really going on. You don't see this in the news oftentimes, and we might not hear it, maybe even within our own place of worship. But older adults are making a difference, and we can be part of that difference making. This is a quote from Joan Chittister, her book, The Gift of Years, Growing Older Gracefully. If you've never read this book, it truly is a very good aging and spirituality book. It's a delightful book. I've read it several times. I've shared it with folks, both in the congregation, even within my own family. But this is just one excerpt that I thought was so meaningful that Joan shared in this book, The Gift of Years. A blessing of these years is that we are the ones whose responsibility it is to prove stereotyping wrong, to give age its own fullness of life. I think, really, that God has given us the blessing of long life today compared to any time in history, that we might prove stereotyping is wrong and to give age its fullness in life, to share that with others, to live that within our communities, and to teach that to young. So I commend this book to you. I think you will be blessed by it. It's probably about 20 years now that Joan had the book published, 15 to 20 years anyway. Aging reality, we cannot pretend that people 65 years of age and over experience only glorious possibilities. Listen, we've got to be honest about aging itself. Older adults do face a variety of problems. So while we can talk about positive aging and we can confront ageism, there is the reality that aging is tough. Who was it? Betty Davis said, aging isn't for sissies. Older adults have to deal with managing their own or their spouse's chronic conditions, a reality. Grief caused by the death of loved ones, loss of meaning and relationships as we age. We encounter limitations in mobility and increasing dependence. And for some of us, we experience isolation and loneliness. Several years ago, I was a speaker up in Indianapolis at a presentation, and on the stage with me was a geriatrician, a medical doctor who deals with the diseases and issues related to growing older. And I'll never forget the words of the geriatrician. The first thing the geriatrician said to that group was this: if you plan to age and grow old, make sure you have a daughter. The reality to that is that the problems that we encounter as we grow older, we may need someone to care. And in our society, while men care as well, they don't care, generally speaking, to the same numbers and the degree that women provide the caregiving. And his point as a geriatrician was, while it was facetious, his point was that women oftentimes are the caregivers for folks as they age. And so he was saying, look, if you're going to grow old, have a daughter. And part of the reality that we're experiencing is that even within our families today with fewer numbers. So that means as we're growing older, we have fewer children, we have fewer grandchildren, we have fewer cousins, we have fewer aunts, fewer uncles. And so our connections that we might have become less in our life. And that can be detrimental to our health. Connections are very, very important. So even if we don't have the family, we need the friends and we need connections of others. And oftentimes our places of worship become that key central place for connections that we might encounter. Our aging tests each of us. The process of aging is not always easy, and I don't think it's always positive. Aging is also about the challenges, the transitions, and the losses that we experience. As people age, their spiritual maturity and well-being are often tested and refined through the frequent experience of loss, whether in the form of illness and disability, the death of loved ones, as well as the changes in social position and economic conditions. These we encounter along the way. Excuse me. Hit the wrong button. There is spiritual insight for us. The skillfulness of elderhood is to be found not in avoiding loss, not in avoiding it, but learning how to grow through it. How do we grow as a result of that? That aging can become positive. Deepening our trusting relationship with God can be an important spiritual task as we age. Scripture does not say that God takes away God's blessing when a person reaches age 65. God is with us always. God is with us every day. God is with us every single moment. God does not turn us away because we have reached some age that God no longer cares for us. God loves us at every age and stage of life. Old age is an opportunity for older adults to grow ever closer to a loving relationship with God and to our true selves. Successful aging involves how older adults feel, think, act in whatever circumstances they find themselves. It involves how individuals meet difficulties they encounter in life, in every day of their life. It involves how older adults see themselves fitting into their world and what purpose they may have. Having meaning and purpose takes on a whole new life for many of us when we're no longer nurturing a family or working out in the world somewhere. When we have retired or we no longer are nurturing a family, finding purpose and meaning takes on a whole different perspective. In fact, that's why some people will go back to work after they've retired. It may be financial, but it might not be. It may be that's where they find their meaning and their purpose in life. Some other folks will find it through their faith community by becoming involved in serving the needs of others and volunteering. Some will be just by taking up a cause, justice issues, social justice. Others will find meaning and purpose in some other area of their life. But finding it and holding on to that and growing through it becomes all the more important for successful aging. Attitude and coping skills are important for aging successfully. What is our attitude? Are we the grumpy old woman, the grumpy old man that sometimes our culture portrays as we grow older? Oh, they're just grumpy. Or are we those people who are so conservative in our thinking that we don't want any kind of change in life, and we become frustrated by any kind of change? Except for the technology changes that we can become frustrated by at any time in our life. And I'm just being facetious about that. Overcoming negative attitude about your own aging. Start by embracing your own age, no matter what it is. Stand in front of the mirror and announce, besides, I like those crow feet that I see. Announce to yourself, I am the perfect age for me today. Whatever age that is. I am the perfect age for me today. This is the age God wants me to be today. My worth is not based on what I still do or what I can't do. My worth is not measured on what I look like. It's not just saying these words. It's saying them until you believe them. It's saying them until it becomes part of who you are in your walk in life. There are characteristics of positive aging that I think can be helpful. There are many, but I've selected a few just to share with you. Caring about others becomes part of positive aging, that we truly care about others besides ourselves. That we are open to new ideas. That we maintain hope in life. No matter what we're encountering, that God is with us. We are not alone. That we continue to learn. That enrichment becomes part of who we are, constantly learning something new, even maybe a new language or a new skill. Retains a sense of humor. And Lord only knows how we need to have good humor as we're growing older. Maintain social contacts, that we truly are connected with others in all that we do, that we don't go it alone, and that we can accept dependency needs. You know, not just the eyeglasses or the hearing aid, but other dependency needs that come our way, you know, from the pacemaker to the wheelchair that help us get around. Positive aging attributes include ignore ageism and ageist stereotypes to the best of our ability. And it's tough, but we have to give it a try. Enjoy the freedom of being older. Enjoy the freedom of being an older adult. Again, seek social connections. I can't emphasize that enough. Being connected to others is so important to our well-being as we grow older. Keep actively engaged in your community, your faith community. Embrace change. Welcome it. Accept it. Expand notions of beauty, health, and sexuality as we grow older. Actively cultivate learning and spiritual growth in your life. We need to re-envision a positive aging image of aging. I think it would be helpful for us to do that anyway, to re-envision a positive image as we live longer, to recognize our shared potentiality and our vulnerability, which are very real, to embrace our creativity and generativity, to accept our frailty and our dependency needs. And to recognize that the role of humility and gratitude and acceptance in the face of aging can help to live an old age with peace, reverence, and good humor. Imagine a new story for your life by finding meaning and purpose in growing older. What does God have in store for you? What do you think God has to offer you as you are aging and growing older? What might God want of you? Connect with family and friends. I know I've said this earlier, but I can't emphasize it enough. Don't go it alone. Stay connected with others. Take time to pray, to learn, to grow, and to create. Possess an attitude of gratitude in all walks of life. I mean, to really be grateful for this day, for these people, for this world, as crazy as it may seem. And we're going to experience even more craziness with the coming election. We all realize that within our society. But to possess an attitude of gratitude for this life that you have, for this time in this age. Use your wisdom to enhance our world. God has given you experience and knowledge and wisdom. Use it. Enhance your community. Enhance your family's life. Enhance the world. Try something new and serve as sages and wise elders for the next generation. I think young people need us as much as we need young people. And I think learning together and sharing together is one of the benefits and the blessings of growing older. And don't ever apologize for growing old or for being an older adult. Embrace it. Don't apologize. Embrace it. Working together, I believe, we can challenge ageism in ourselves, in our churches, and in our communities. I believe working together, we can create new language and models that embrace the full life journey. I believe working together, we can create new paradigms so that adults can participate fully with their capabilities and ambitions at all stages of life. I believe working together, we can create a society that supports the well-being of people of all ages, children, youth, young adults, midlife, and older adults. Working together, we can celebrate the contributions, the faithfulness, and the wisdom of older adults. But it takes all of us, a concerted effort. Even if we're not together in the same community or the same family, working together as older adults, having a common vision and a common mission can bring about great change. There's an inspiring thought. At least it is for me, and because it's an inspiring thought for me, I'm sharing it with you. Youth can walk fast. but the elder knows the road. It's an African proverb. Look at the wisdom in that proverb, in that saying. I may not be as quick anymore. I may not be as fast, but I've had the experience and the knowledge over the years to know the road. We know the road. Let's utilize that wisdom, that experience, and that knowledge that we have gained. So, where does that bring us? It brings us to challenge ageism, that we might embrace our own aging. Challenge your ageist self-talk. Rid yourself of your internal ageist messages. We all have them. They exist within us, even without thinking. And the reality is, just to throw it off and say, "Oh, I'm not ageist. I don't have an ageist thought." Yeah. In all likelihood, we all do. We can't help it. It just permeates within our society and within our culture. So challenge yourself to get rid of all the ageist talk about you and about yourself as you're growing older. Commit to education about aging. Read books. Learn about the diversity of the aging experience. Talk to others. Learn to eat healthy meals and to do those right things that we are told that we should do as we age to help our aging in terms of, all the things. Dr. Wick is going to be sharing that with us following my portion of the webinar. So I don't want to get into that at this point. Foster positive interaction between older and young people. We've got to do it for the sake of our world. We've got to do it for the sake of God's kingdom. How we can interact with young and old alike, for we need each other so desperately. Keep active and engaged with your church, if you're a part of a church. If not, get involved in some way, whether it's the Senior Citizen Center or some other place that you might join to have social connections with others. But get involved and stay engaged with people. Even if it's just getting together with friends on a morning for breakfast at a McDonald's. Share those connections. Enjoy that time. Learn and grow from each other. Find what breaks your heart the most. Find what breaks your heart the most. Make it your passion and get involved. That, my friends, is the key to embracing your aging. What breaks your heart the most? Make that your passion and get involved. You want to embrace your aging? Go for it. This is your opportunity. I want to thank you for allowing me to just share my thoughts this afternoon on ways that I think we can really embrace our aging. But we have to confront ageism within our society and within ourselves, stay connected with others, trust in God, and move forward. Thank you for the time. I'll turn this now back to Dr. Wick.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gensler. You've thrown the gauntlet down. Lots of challenges, lots of things to process for all of us. I wanted to offer just a couple more practical tips around the context of keeping ourselves as healthy as possible. And I know this is a big shift from thinking through the society and ageism, but really it's not. When we think about longevity, people ask me all the time, about the words that we use, the old in the, older adults, or aging scenarios, and different words that people use like silver tsunami and things like that. And so from a health perspective, I just very quickly wanted to give you a couple of tips about healthcare and overall holistically, not just physical health, but talking about spiritual health and what matters most to you as well. The first thing to know is in healthcare, your date of birth only matters for two reasons. One is to make sure you are who we think you are, to identify your records and things like that. But the second is to find out what benefits you may have an opportunity to take advantage of. Other than that, we are very tuned in, or should be, to your actual health status as it relates to your ability to function and your ability to do what activities you enjoy doing. So your quality of life. And so it may well be that someone who's 85 is out running marathons and is much more active and fit than someone who is 35. So taking the approach of looking at what's important to each person and their quality of life helps us develop individualized plans for people so that they can live as long as possible, but also as independently and as happy as possible. You're going to get some links in a follow-up email about different resources that you can access if you feel like you have questions or challenges in different areas. And so I just wanted to provide a little context around that to merge what Dr. Gensler's been talking about, as well as the resources that we'll offer you. And the first is that there are a list of things that you can do for yourself. Some of us find it hard to do things for ourselves. We have a spiritual gift or a calling to serve others, but sometimes we forget that there are things that we can do to make sure that we're ensuring our own health and happiness. And the first one of those is really what matters most to you. And this is a very broad statement. You could apply it to finding your purpose, the thing that breaks your heart, the thing that you feel called to do. But if you really use an introspective look about healthcare specifically and what matters most to you, that's looking at how you view your culture, values, and beliefs for your own health journey. Whether you want to have certain treatments or medications or get evaluated for certain things, all comes down to your different priorities and the way that you would like your care to be given and received. Some very basic things that you hear all the time but are super important, especially when we look at longevity, is making sure that we're eating healthy, making sure that we have access to healthy foods, and that's easier said than done for most of us. There are different community resources that are available for that, and again, some of that will be linked in your follow-up email. Moving often is incredibly important. Our body is made to move. Our joints are made to move. We are not made to sit at a desk all day. God had purpose for us outside of sitting. He wants us to move and be active because our bodies respond well to that, and it keeps us strong and vital. It's also important for us to sleep well. Our brain needs the rest. Our organs need the rest. We get rid of different toxins while we sleep. So sleep is incredibly important and also becomes incredibly challenging as we grow older as well. But some of the things that you can do, particularly and practically speaking, is challenge your brain. Word puzzles, card games, learning a new language, learning a new instrument, teaching people skills such as carpentry, or perhaps you were a plumber or an auto mechanic. Finding ways to challenge your brain and molding those with your purpose. Some people choose to volunteer, but they have a reason to get up in the morning. Perhaps it's not volunteering necessarily, but it's projects that you like to do, building things for others, or writing, or creating movies, whatever. Finding that purpose that gives you something to get up for each day that makes your quality of life better, but also for those around you. Spending time with others is incredibly important. And the more we learn about loneliness, the more we know how much it affects a person's health and how long they live and at what quality of life they have. Even if you're someone who says, I really prefer to be alone, we know that it is vital that we spend time with others. And it's not just for the purpose of talking, but it's also for human touch and interaction and being connected to others and to the community and to society as a whole. With that, keeping a priority on spiritual health is certainly a priority. There are so many of us who gain peace and wisdom and insight and allow our spiritual journey to not only comfort us, but to challenge us and inspire us, but then also to motivate us to serve others as well. So prioritizing spiritual health, as Dr. Gensler so eloquently stated in his presentation, is also an incredible marker for health and longevity. And then finally is the idea of having a plan. And that's going to be things like your legal plans, your plan for aging in place, or your plan for disaster or the unexpected emergency that may pop up. Having plans for those situations is very important and will help eliminate any stress on both you and your family should something unexpected occur. Now, I talked a little bit about what matters most, and just to reiterate that, that's really an introspective look at your values, your health goals, your care preferences, really addressing your fears and concerns and molding that to your health status and your trajectory, so that you're able to verbalize the things that are important to you when it comes to your health. In thinking about things to do for others, most of you are important pillars in your congregations. There are things that we can do both in our congregations and our communities. Dr. Gensler referred to as well, but part of our job is to raise awareness around all things aging, to raise awareness on quality of life over things that prolong our life but don't enhance our life. We have both the opportunity and the call to advocate for others who are more vulnerable, advocate for those who need more services with our community and state and federal representatives as well. And then to participate in research. One of the ways that we can move forward in our progress for our health is to investigate ways to make life better for everyone. And that doesn't always include taking a pill or taking a new prescription or taking a new shot. Sometimes it's just offering your opinion on what you enjoy during your day. What type activities seem to make you feel better, both mentally and physically? There are many ways to participate in research outside of just healthcare research itself. But we need people from all ages, all people groups to engage in research to help us learn the best ways that we can all achieve that level of health and happiness. And then the final thing is to provide support. As we've talked about this entire time, all of us generally have some level of support that we need. We find that most people who are most vulnerable are socially isolated, and the church can address some of these challenges in fantastic ways. There are intergenerational programs and activities that can be started, transportation programs, providing a respite service, looking at dementia-friendly worship services, or having home visit programs. Look around both your congregation and your community for those who are isolated and lonely. One of the great opportunities we have are to serve those who are unable to either get out of their home or on their own and could use some visits or some help in different ways. When people have memory loss, there is a lot of stigma and fear that surrounds that memory loss. Many people choose no longer to attend church services. And because of that, there are some different activities that are available now. One called Dementia Friends, which just serves to help educate and encourage different congregations to provide different support measures for people with dementia and their caregivers. It is a short program that provides information, and it's for all ages. So we'll send along some links for that as well. We talked a little bit about dementia-friendly worship services, as well as caregiver respite, and then spiritual support and consultation and legal issues. All of those things we'll send some links for if you or your congregation members or church leaders have an interest in finding out more about those. Former First Lady Rosalind Carter said there are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. It is incredibly important that we support caregivers, especially if we are one, that we recognize that and allow people to help us as well. One very common thread among caregivers is that they're very stoic and often won't ask for help. So when we as congregations are aware of the plight of different caregivers, we can help address some of their needs. And as I've said before, that may mean giving them space to go to their own health appointments or provide respite for them. Sometimes counseling is important. Sometimes it's just listening, providing reassurance that they're doing everything that they can do. There's a lot of guilt that can come along with caregiving, and reassurance from trusted individuals can go a very long way. And then again, providing opportunities for worship as well. So with all that said, I want to thank you again for coming today and for helping us in ENCORE Ministry spread some of the information that we feel is important for statewide, but countrywide and worldwide, to reduce ageism and to encourage people to live long and healthy, enjoyable lives. Our initiative helps empower congregations to care for older adults and caregivers. We offer on-site and virtual workshops, as well as consultation and resource identification and connection. So if you have questions about any of the topics that we've mentioned today, or that Dr. Gensler's talked about, we can help provide additional resources and information around that. I wanted to call your attention in closing to our event that we'll be co-sponsoring in Memphis at Mullins United Methodist Church on April the 18th. You can scan this barcode here from your screen using your phone, or there's a registration link. And if we go too quickly, you're welcome to reach out to us, and myself or Stephanie can get that information for you. And then finally, we'd love to have you join us next month on April the 16th. We're going to start celebrating Older Americans Month a little bit early. The theme this year for Older Americans Month is Powered by Connection, and we'll be talking about congregational care. So bringing all of the information that we've talked about in the last 2 months together and really molding that into some tangible ways that you can help serve your congregation around successful aging. And then May 21st, we will again have that theme of Powered by Connection, and we'll give some examples of outreach and hospitality, and again, provide some ideas and context around serving others in your congregation and community. You may scan this QR code if you like, if you have the time. This has all of our information on it and contacts. And then you can also text or call us at the number on the left side of the screen, and I'm sure Stephanie's put all that in the chat as well. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. One last time, feel free to reach out if there is any information that myself or Dr. Gensler can help you with. ENCORE Ministries has a wide array of resources available at their website as well. All right. Well, we'll remain on for a few minutes if anyone has a question pop up. In the meantime, we hope that you have a blessed day and the rest of your week, and we'll be glad to see you next month. Bye-bye, everyone.